Hi, this is Chuck with the Hesitant Homesteader. Welcome back. Today I'd like to talk about my apple trees and the small orchard that we've got across the street from our house. We planted apple trees pretty much one of the first things that we did because we knew it would take the longest amount of time and we were really anxious to get that started. We planted wine crisp and we planted honey crisp and we planted a cherry tree and we planted a peach tree. And then when we moved in, there was one apple tree, which I'm not sure of the variety, that was already here. So, you know, the orchard is part of our, I guess a micro farm is what I'm calling our place. Yes, we're trying to be homesteaders, and yes, we're working towards more self-sufficiency, but I kind of view it more of like as a little micro farm because our property is just about an acre in size, and so I'm trying to do all of the things that a bigger homestead farm system would have, just on a lot smaller scale. So my compost system is going to be on a smaller scale. I'm going to have a smaller area for chickens and other livestock. You can hear our rooster back there, good old Chester. And our orchard smaller, and our garden and so forth. But our systems are the same. And so an orchard, when I looked at it, is very much an important part of our system because it's going to provide food for us, but the fruit that drops or any extra fruit that we have is going to go into the compost area, which is in our chicken coop, which you can see on other videos I've done. And so that helps feed the chickens, and in turn, the chickens turn that into good compost, which after 2 or 3 months goes back around our fruit trees and helps feed them and keep weeds down. So I like to do things that are in that cyclical nature to have fewer inputs and to have a self-sustaining system. So that's one of the reasons that we wanted to have an orchard, and that's how the orchard fits in our little tiny orchard. The challenges that we had when we did this, and you maybe are facing the same thing, are definitely a lack of knowledge and definitely a lack of experience. We loved to go to orchards before we moved out into the country and took this project on. Neighbors of ours had a large 3,000 tree apple orchard, but I didn't know anything about it. It always seemed very complicated and a bit intimidating. But we decided that when we moved in, it was worth it. We needed to jump in with both feet, and so that's what we did. And so we just started to research, and I thought, what have we got to lose? You know, another thing was difficult was the funds to buy good quality disease-resistant fruit stock, tree stock. You know, you're talking anywhere between $35 and $75 a tree, depending on the age of it, the variety, and the orchard or the nursery that you get that from. So that was a big investment and a little bit intimidating because you don't want to jump into something with that big investment and think, man, are these trees going to live? Is this worth it? The other challenge that we faced on our particular property is that we have very sandy soil, which in some ways is really great because the trees, the soil drains really well, so the trees don't get waterlogged, they don't have wet feet, and have issues that are associated with that. But on the other hand, we really have to make sure that they get a lot of water. We could get 2 inches of rain and you'll never see a puddle on our property. So I had to overcome that. We had to think about, you know, constantly monitoring that water level so we don't lose the trees, especially during the first year or two. And this is our third full season for our fruit trees. The other thing that we have out here that's a big challenge is the wind. It wants to push the trees, and actually we've had a couple of problems with our young trees as they got heavier with the fruit. The wind would hit them and it would start to like literally lift the roots right out of the ground. And I came home a couple different nights with my trees at about a 45-degree angle, and man, I freaked out because we've really been trying to baby these trees and get them along, and this is what we were hoping to be the first year where they're really going to get a lot of fruit, or I should say should get some fruit. I think the last year was the second full season and we got, you know, 4 or 5 apples off each tree. This year was a really tough spring. I didn't think anything was going to pollinate. The trees barely blossomed, so I had very low expectations. So with the wind and the sandy soil and the temperatures we've had, I didn't know what kind of year we were going to have. So I thought this would be a great chance for us to go out and give you an update at the orchard and talk about some of the ways that I've overcome that. So come on out and let's check it out. Okay, so this first tree that you can see behind me here, this is the largest tree, and this is the one that I don't know the variety of. Could be a Gala or it could be a Jonathan, but it was here by the previous owners. And it's been doing great. I'm not crazy about where it's planted at. As you can see, it's pretty close to the road. Kind of a crazy spot. But again, you can see this is just another day here at towards the mid-August, and it's just wind is blowing. But let's take a look at this tree. So I'm pretty happy with the amount of fruit on it, and we've just been doing a natural spray all year. I've been using neem oil, except for early in the spring when it was really wet. I did do a sulfur mix just to keep the fungus down, or I'm sorry, a copper solution in there for fungus. But the challenge here is that the constant wind blowing has pushed this tree and kind of deformed it here. I'll pull back so you can see. And this whole part of the tree is really lopsided and not balanced. Oh, here we go. Here's our cats. Cats, what are you doing? You're hurting my tree. Oh man. So you never know what you're gonna find in the challenges. Add that to the list. Kittens. I don't know if there's a spray for that. Maybe squirt gun. Anyway, so to combat the wind, I'm trying to kind of put tethers on this tree. As you can see up in here, I've put some foam insulation, pipe insulation around the tree so the wire doesn't cut into it. And then we put guy wires that come down at multiple spots here and here. And basically, these wires come all the way back down, and I tied them off onto my split rail fence, with the idea that because the wind pretty much comes from the west, it's going to hold this tree in place and let the branches stop being pushed to the one side and let them grow and get stronger coming out. Look at these nutty cats. What are you doing up in my fruit tree? That might explain these bite marks. Is it you? Or is it you eating my apples? We'll come over here now. We're going to check out some of the other trees. So behind me here is it's a Latham cherry tree. We got a few cherries off of it this year, but it didn't do well. There was a lot of brown rot on the cherries, despite the spray. And here's our peach tree. This looks nice and healthy. Not too much insect damage. I did go ahead and spray it with neem oil throughout the year, but because of the cold temps, we didn't get any blossoms on this, nor any fruit set, and I don't think anybody in Ohio did. We'll take a quick walk over and look at the other apple trees here. So this next apple tree is the Fire Crisp. super happy with this tree. I'm really kind of shocked at how small it is and how much fruit is on it already. I had to do some pruning on it because just kind of throughout the season to keep the branches in a real open, we're going with like an open type of a pruning style. I also did a heading cut on the top of this tree to keep the height down and to get it bushier. So a good investment is just a nice pair of pruning shears or just little hand pruners. I also thinned the fruit, which I talked about in previous videos, which is difficult to do, to see that fruit go to waste, but it's really not going to waste because it results in a lot better quality fruit. Now on this tree here, I've got the water bag on it, and that water bag will hold 20 gallons, and if I need to, I can actually unzip this and put 2 of them together and do 40 gallons of water, and that will drip out over the course of like 8 to 10 hours for a nice slow steady watering. This tree here, I also did some guy wires, so I put in these T-posts on the westward side of the tree. These are not real taut right now. They're kind of designed so that if the wind speed picks up and it starts to push this tree, it's going to stop it from progressing too far. And this is the tree that really scared me because it was the one that, because it was so heavy with fruit, when the wind hit it, or possibly cats, now that I'm seeing this, or raccoons climbed up in it, it pushed the tree over at about a 45-degree angle, and I was worried that it was just going to kill it from the roots. So I actually put posts in here like this with small T-posts on the south, the east, and the west sides, so the wind's not going to push that in any direction too far. Now back here, this tree is our Honeycrisp, and this one has just got the biggest apples. It's got the smallest, the fewest number, but take a look at these. So this tree was the latest to do its fruit set, so I'm also assuming that this is going to be the latest as far as when it comes time to harvest. So we'll have to keep spraying and kind of babying this tree. Again, you can see down here, I've got the water bag on it, and we've also got some little guy wires on it with the T-posts. Again, they're not tight right now, but that's how much movement these small trees get. If that wind just pushes at 4 or 5 inches, it's going to stop it from getting too far out of center and stressing the tree. So we'll keep monitoring these. The hope is that we'll be able to just kind of snack off this fruit for this year. But in future years, I've got more room back here, probably for at least 2 more apple trees. So we'll see, maybe there'll be some sales here towards the end of summer and we can get these trees in and maybe get a bargain price. But for sure, next spring we're gonna plant some more trees so we could have a total of 5 apple trees. So we're pretty happy with stuff. I would really encourage you on your homestead, if you haven't done it or if you're planning to get to a homestead, get your fruit trees in one of the first things you do. Pick a nice site that's protected, but it gets a lot of sun, good slope for drainage. You can read more about that. Go to your library, go online and do some research. We also have a blog post that I'll link in our description that you can go to that kind of summarizes the many hours of research that I did talking about when you should spray, what types of sprays you can use for organic care. It kind of gives you details, but then there's a diagram that I put together that gives you all the different seasons of a cycle in your orchard, what you should be doing in each of those seasons to help give you a big picture view for when you plan. It's not a lot of work. It's actually very enjoyable work to go out with your pruners and water and a small pump sprayer You're using organic things so you don't feel like it's dangerous and toxic to go out there. You feel good because it tastes delicious. You're feeding your family. It's pretty, not instant gratification, but once the trees are established, it's great to go out there and just see that bountiful harvest of fruit on your trees. But get it done soon, learn about it, be patient, and stick with it. You can do it. We did it, and we didn't know what we were doing, so you can certainly do the same. Please share ideas on what you've done on your orchard or what you plan to do. Tell us about what fruit trees you've got, what varieties of apple trees, any tips and tricks for organic orchard care that you can share. Our followers and subscribers and viewers would love to hear more about that. So thanks so much for watching today. When we get ready to harvest, we will do an update video. We've also got a video that you can check out where we've harvested some logs from the woods. Ben and I were getting those cut into lumber. Actually, it's been cut into lumber and they're in the kiln drying right now. But I'm going to be building a wooden cider press for our families to share and make our own cider this fall. So that'll be a lot of fun too. So thanks for watching, really appreciate it. Please subscribe and we'll see you next time.